Hello everyone. Today I just want to make a quick video on how to get someone's timing in Tekken 7. So this is probably the most commonly asked question that I get while I'm streaming and my most requested video. I know a lot of you are like Brian players, Steve players, stuff like that, counter hit heavy characters, and a lot of you aren't entirely sure on how to get someone's timing. So before we dive into getting someone's timing, let's just kind of talk about what it means to have someone's timing in the first place, right? So when people are talking about timing, basically what they're referring to is the timing on when someone makes a decision, right? So that decision can be offensive or defensive, but a lot of times, very common discussion is about offensive timing because it's being discussed in terms of like getting a counter hit, right? So it can be based on when your opponent is pressing a button, when your opponent is, sidestepping, when your opponent is low blocking. It can be offensive or defensive decisions, but it's basically referring to the timing on when your opponent is making any sort of decision, any sort of play, right? Anything. It's when your opponent gets active. So, why is it important to have someone's timing, and why is it worth doing? So, as we said earlier, it can lead us to get counter hits, right? Because we have a better idea on when our opponent is going to press a button. We have a better idea on when we can press our offense, right? And it can also help us make defensive decisions, and it can help us beat our opponent's defensive decisions because we can have a better idea on when they're going to low block, when they're going to sidestep, right? When they're going to make a defensive decision, right? And we can beat that by, delaying our timing, or if they have a tendency to do things on a delay, we can just do immediate timing, things like that, right? And it makes us able to make better defensive decisions as well because we know when our opponent is likely to press a button, whether that be a low, anything. So, with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about how to actually get someone's timing. So, if you are a lower level or intermediate player and you've asked someone for advice, you've probably heard something along the lines of, um, look at what your opponent is doing, um, use your jab and see what they do, right? That's a really common one. But it doesn't really tell you what you're supposed to be looking for or how to use those tools. Generally, what people are referring to when they're talking about using your jab, seeing what they do, stuff like that, is they are referring to trying to get someone's timing using those moves. And the reason that they tell you to use your jab, to use your down forward one, stuff like that, is because those are your lowest risk buttons, right? Those keep your opponent in check. Set up your own offense. I touched on this a little bit in my Brian poking video, but those are your lowest risk buttons, your most commonly used tools, right? So if you use those and you can kind of get a read on how your opponent is responding to them by looking at what your opponent is doing, then you're putting yourself at very little risk and you're getting information on your opponent in the process. So, doing your jab, doing your down forward one, and just sitting there, seeing how your opponent responds. Do they mash? Do they move? Do they just block? That gives you information on your opponent, and you can use that in the future going forward to make more educated decisions as the attacker, right? So, this is basically how we get someone's timing for the most part against an intermediate player is we're using our either our pokes or we're testing with our counter hit launchers to see when they're likely to press a button. And against an intermediate player, it's usually going to be one of two things. It's going to be either immediate timing or delay timing. So immediate timing obviously is always pressing on things instantly, no delay, just constant attacking, always wanting to take their turn back. Delay timing can be a bit more tricky to read because it can be a big or a small delay. But the point is that they're always pressing a button after something has passed. There's just a slight delay when they're doing it. Generally, those are the two types of players that you're going to fight at an intermediate level. And I kind of like to just divide it into two categories because you have to fight them differently, right? So if I'm playing, an immediate timing player, I'm going to be, making a lot more defensive decisions immediately, obviously, because they're more likely to, block my move, do a low, do this, do that, whatever. If I'm playing a delay timing player, it's a bit more difficult to make defensive decisions, but usually you can still read them because, as I said, they're always pressing something just on a delay. That's one of the things that separates the mid from the high level players a lot of the times is that the high level players, their timing is very adaptable. They're not very easy to read. Maybe they're attacking on a delay once, then they're attacking on immediate, and then they're not attacking at all. They're letting a situation pass, going back to neutral, stuff like that. If you're fighting someone like that, it's a lot more complicated. This is just for intermediate players. But maybe I'll make a video on getting a high level player's timing as well, if you guys like this video. But without further ado, I just want to show you guys how I got this person's timing in this tournament set and used it to just steamroll and win the whole thing. So I have some timestamps here. There's no point in really watching this whole tournament set. I just want to show you guys some specific interactions that gave me a lot of information. So in this first round, we're just, moving around, playing Tekken, right? Just poking, right? And then as you can see here, he does Leo FF2, right? Leo FF2 is -9 on block. And I did a delayed Marduk down back 2. Safe mid counter hit launcher, right? Just to test, see what my opponent was going to do afterwards, right? And as you can see, he presses a button on a delay. So that instantly gives me a lot of information about my opponent, right? Because they're liable to press on delay. They've showed me it once. And since they're, an intermediate lower level player, I can kind of run with that and say, okay, this is probably what they're going to do 9 out of 10 times going forward in the future, right? And so I use that to win the round. And then as you can see here, I have more examples of this exact same thing working, right? So as you can see here, like we talked about earlier with defensive decisions, also on a set timing, right? He does the move. He tries to do a low parry with Leo, I'm pretty sure, but he just got the crouch dash by accident. But you can see, right? He's still making decisions on a delay, right? And if you want proof that he's still making decisions on a delay, 1-2 delay, he gets counter hit by down back 2. So you guys see, look, 2 delay decisions back to back. So at this point, it's just like, okay, it's just open season. Like he's not going to change his timing, right? I feel really confident in just pushing my offense here. And as you can see, one more example from this game. Leo down forward 3. I think it's also like -8, -9. He presses on a delay, delayed down back 2, counter hits him. So do you guys see, like how simple this can really be? All I've done is, I'm playing simple Tekken, moving around the screen, just, doing lows, doing mids, simple stuff, right? And then I threw out one counter hit launcher on a set timing. And from there, my opponent showed me that they're going to press on the same timing every time. And you guys can do this with all different kinds of moves. Steve down forward 2, Brian forward 3, Brian 3+4. The point of this video is to show you guys how much your opponent is actually showing you about themselves and how they play in any given set, right? Because even if you guys aren't paying attention to timing, it can feel really difficult to land counter hits. It can feel like you're kind of just flailing and throwing out counter hit launchers and hoping that, they hit. But all you have to do is use these moves and look at how your opponent responds. Are they pressing on immediate timing? Are they, pressing on a delay like this person? And from there, like I said, more educated reads, better timing, because you're actually looking at what your opponent is doing and you're adapting from there, as opposed to just throwing out your counter hit buttons because, you want to get a counter hit and they're safe. I have some more examples too. Down forward 1, delay, into down back 2 counter hit. So just like over and over and over again, this person is getting counter hit on the same timing. And I don't even think that they realized that they were pressing on the same timing every time. So let this video also serve as a little guide on if you guys are, getting counter hit all the time, you're getting all your lows blocked, you're whatever. It's probably because you're pressing on the same timing every time. And you have to actively think consciously about that and say, okay, when am I pressing buttons? Like, when am I giving my opponent something to go off of? Because I clearly need to change this. That's the biggest problem that most people have when they're getting all their lows blocked, or they're getting counter hit all the time. They think that, oh, I just need to do more mids, or oh, I need to do faster moves, or oh, this and that. But it's really, you are always giving your opponent something on the same timing. And as we talked about earlier with defensive decisions, people often have set timings when they make defensive decisions, right? We've seen it with this Leo player as well. Low parrying after, on a delay. People duck at an intermediate level or low parry or sidestep on the same timings every time. It's very common. And if you're playing into it, then it's just going to feel like your opponent is a defensive god. But in reality, you're just attacking on the same timing every time, and they have a built-in 5-year-old flowchart to low parry after this move or to sidestep after this move or whatever, and you're playing into it, you lose. It's all because of timing. So
I think he, yeah.
guys, see there, he hits me with the low get up kick again. He delays his timing, he gets counter hit, right? Like it's just over and over and over. And I have one more example here from this video.
Wait, I didn't know much. I was asking.
So as you guys can see, this is not an example of delay timing.
Wait, I didn't
This
know.
is something I want to show you guys about switching your timing, because as he's shown me before, after this, up forward 2-1, he low parried, right? He was making defensive decisions, so I started doing immediate timing lows, right? And then I started doing immediate timing mids because this is the last game of the set. We're doing a little bit of adaptation back and forth, whatever. But I just want to show you guys, like, even if your opponent is always pressing on delay timing, pressing on immediate timing is good because their defensive decisions are also going to be on a delay. So you can do immediate timing lows, you can do immediate timing mids, whatever. But yeah, so I mean, after this, I just won the set. But you guys can see how easy it was because all I had to do was test him once and he never adapted. So you guys can use this hopefully, in any future tournament sets or even ranked sets to be able to get a better read on your opponent's timing. It'll make you a better Tekken player. It'll make you a better defender. Um, there are more ways to get someone's timing, but this is the easiest way, is just to test someone with, a certain move and see how they react, and then you can go from there, right? And luckily in my case, I tested him with a counter hit launcher and he got counter hit the first time, and then I was like, oh, well, lucky me, I guess. And then it worked like 10 more times. And then that's all I had to do to win the set. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on timing, getting someone's timing at an intermediate level. Very simple. Hopefully this video was helpful, and please guys, if you watch this all the way through, if you guys have any ideas for future videos, please let me know. I like making content for you guys, but sometimes I don't have ideas, so if you guys have anything you want to learn, you want to see, please let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and have a great day.